I forgot we do this podcast.
So yes.
I watched the episode today, and after I finished, I was like, man, I'm so glad I get to hang out with Tuck. I really like this episode and want to talk about it. And then I realized why we were hanging out.
I love that, though. I mean, honestly, that's kind of my hope, is that this podcast will just turn into just us hanging out. So that's good.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes it happens, and I just think it's hilarious when I realize.
All wings report in.
HouseDog, standing by.
Mother Goose, standing by.
Lowtech Tuck, standing by.
Lock S foils in attack position. Animal Squadron ready for battle.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Animal Squadron. You're here with your hairiest host, Mother Goose.
And your main man, your boy, Lowtech Tuck.
The one and only.
The one and only. Back and ready to get it.
For sure. Well, today we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian Chapter 8. I'm really sorry, Tucker, because I was like, I'm just going to watch it. I'm not going to take notes, and we'll just kind of, let it flow. And then I ended up taking more notes than any other episode of The Mandalorian.
Yep. Okay. All right, and like I told you earlier, I unfortunately ran out of time today. So, I've seen the episode several times, but today I'm just going off of notes, pretty much. So, let's get it.
Hell yeah. So, this opening scene, I think, is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. The one where the two stormtroopers, right after they have captured Grogu, are just chilling and talking and trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, they have a very candid, just a dude with a coworker conversation. I like it.
I'm sure it was scripted, but if you told me that was just improv, they just said, hey, talk about whatever, I 100% will believe that.
Oh, I would too. Especially the hitting Grogu thing. The other guy, his reaction's real. He's like, whoa, hey, don't do that. It's, I honestly, I think it is improv, if I'm guessing.
And then Grogu bites him and he hits him too.
I love it. Our boy's always fighting.
Honestly.
He's here for the violence. Chooses violence every day.
Right. I did think I was mad they hit him. I was mad that they just put him in a satchel.
Yep. But also, if you're stealing a baby, it's efficient.
That is very true. And Grogu stays in that satchel pretty much the entire episode, except for one point, which I thought was interesting. I'm sure it was just to save money. I'm sure it was a lot easier just to have his head sticking out than, fully animating. Or I think they do use a puppet. Sometimes it's animated, sometimes it's an actual puppet.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually it's mostly a puppet. Or the movements appear to be, I should say.
Right.
But actually, one thing I do like, though, again with the sack thing, is IG-11, as a robot, he's also only thinking in efficiency. And so he just grabs the bag. That's it.
Yeah, very, very easy.
Yep.
I think the last couple things I have about this is them trying to shoot the can and then both missing.
Yeah, that was a really good hidden joke. I like that.
Yeah, and then the one, I think it's the one that's holding Grogu, shakes his blaster next to his ear, and you can hear it sounds like something's broken inside of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or at least something's loose.
I missed that. That's funny.
Yeah.
What does Obi-Wan say? Oh, only stormtroopers can be so precise. That's the line from the original movie.
Right.
I would love to see an edit where it's only stormtroopers can be so precise, and then it shows this. They just can't even hit a can.
Listen, I'll do it. I will do it. It's happening. And whenever we do make our official YouTube channel for all our podcasts and stuff, I'll throw it on there.
Love to see it. Love to see it. That's a good clip right there.
For sure. That was a good idea, Tuck. I don't know. Just to get on that, how do you feel? Like, I'm personally a strong believer that, okay, yes, that scene kind of sucked, but I think a lot of the times where we see stormtroopers sucking, like, the big example is in episode 4. But
like in the hallway.
Yeah, they were told to let them escape so they could follow them to the rebel base.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, they've passed stormtrooper basic training and have done some marksmanship kind of stuff, so they can't be that bad. But still, it's been a long time Star Wars joke, like literally since the very start.
Yes, for sure.
We keep rolling with it, even though it's not true.
Justice for the stormtroopers.
Oh yeah, I mean, because honestly, they're probably pretty good shots, but I love to see a good joke every now and then. Yeah.
Same, for sure. Especially because, I really like what Star Wars has done with, Andor, what is it? Andor and Solo. We get to see a really big transition between, because there's the Stormtrooper Corps and then there's the Imperial Army, and they're both obviously work for the Empire, but they are different. But by the time we get to Episode 4, pretty much most of the Imperial Army has been converted to Stormtroopers, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
Just the way it all worked out.
Yeah, from the movies and stuff, I think pretty much it's you are Stormtrooper, which is Army, unless you're an officer. Officers don't get Stormtrooper armor. But then otherwise you're Navy. But even their armor is the same, which is kind of weird too. Which you really can't tell. It's just basically if they're on a ship or not.
Which all goes to that the feeling that the Empire wanted the galaxy to feel like there was an endless number of stormtroopers, and that's something I'll talk about a little bit later. That I think this episode does really, really well. And I think transitioning the Imperial Army and just making them all stormtroopers really, really bolstered their numbers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Or it certainly appeared that way.
Yeah. And that honestly, we're talking about accuracy and stuff, that might have been a big reason. Maybe the original stormtroopers were super good and accurate, and then once the Imperial Army was merged with it, there's no way they were all as good as normal stormtroopers.
Yeah, well, and also if you think about what stormtroopers are in our real life, in World War I, they were like your trench raider kind of guys that were your real hard dudes, who just would go in there and just wreck the trench. Whereas your normal guys weren't necessarily like that.
Yeah.
And I think in real life, if the Germans had done that in World War I, we probably would have seen the same thing. If everyone was a stormtrooper, then therefore no one's a stormtrooper, because it's just normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I am 13 minutes into our recording, and we have officially made it to the title screen.
Yes, sir. Longest intro ever. I love it.
So I just have a couple lines here. This is the scene where they are essentially holding out or hiding in that building as Moff Gideon's giving his speech. He mentions the Night of 1,000 Tears, which I think this might be the first time we get a mention of that. I can't remember.
That sounds correct. Other than the armor in an earlier episode.
Oh, that is true. She might have said something.
Well, she mentions basically why they're there, that Mandalore's gone. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all we get. So as far as the name Night of 1,000 Tears, this is the first time, I believe.
Gotcha. I just really like how the show handled the Night of 1,000 Tears and how it slowly built up to it.
Mm-hmm. And is this the scene where he says Night of 1,000 Tears and then we get a cutscene of it with TIE bombers bombing Mandalore.
No, we do get a flashback. Grief, that's his name. Sorry, I always forget. Grief says something about how, like, weren't you born a Mandalorian? And he's like, and Kara says, Mandalorian's not a race, and he's like, it's a creed. And then we get a flashback to Din during the Clone Wars. This is where we find out. We get 2 flashbacks throughout for season 1, but this was the longer one. So we get to see him hiding, his parents kind of dying, like they close the door and then a bombshell hits, and then the Mandalorians actually coming in and saving him. Mm-hmm. But a little before that, just 2 more lines to point out. Moff Gideon, sorry, I almost said Grief, tells Grief, if you're asking if you can trust me, you cannot. And I love that line so much.
Yeah, no, that's solid. That's a solid bad guy right there.
And then we also get Kara mentioning the Mind Flayers, which becomes an important thing in season 3. But I think this might be the first mention of them, if I'm remembering correctly.
And if I remember correct, it's also the first canonical mention of Mind Flayers in general.
Yeah, because I know there's a little bit of it in like episode 4 with the probe droids and stuff, but like I think there's a connection probably between the two, but definitely not the same thing.
Yeah, well, like the probe droid, for instance, the one that's about to stab Princess Leia famously in A New Hope, like right when Darth Vader's talking to her, like at the very beginning of the movie. That one, it's alluded to in the movie that it's like gonna make her talk. So I think it's reasonable to assume that it's a truth serum kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as far as actual like mind flayers, I think pretty much other than illusions like that, you only really get them in the EU. Right.
Yep. And also, like, as D&D fans, like, it's just so cool they call them mind flayers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Definitely, whoever wrote this plays D&D.
Yeah, but also, too, I mean, D&D came around not that long after Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that's also, for instance, why a lot of EU novels will have mind flayers in them. I mean, I think they kind of go hand in hand, because D&D came out in, I don't know, the mid-1980s.
Yeah.
And that's less than 10 years after Star Wars, so. And that's also when a lot of the EU novels were written, is the mid-1980s, so. I think it all kind of is just one big deal. Like, obviously, the Mind Flayers are named after the D&D Mind Flayers, because that was new and cool at the time.
Right. But yes, so we get the flashback. I just want to point out how good the super battle droids look in this scene.
Yeah, the live-action ones, love the movie. And sorry, Mac, whenever you hear this, but these are way better than the Attack of the Clones, or even the Episode 3 B2 super battle droids.
Yeah, they look really good. And I think, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure that these are Death Watch Mandalorians here.
Yeah, I mean, you see the blue armor.
Right. And I think we see one of them with the Death Watch symbol on their, the sigil on their shoulder.
Yeah.
But I don't remember exactly what that looks like. So I paused it and I looked at it for a little bit and I was like, I think that is it, but...
Isn't it a hand?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, and at the time you've got, because of Clone Wars anyway, you've got that, and where the Children of the Watch come from is that moon off of Mandalore that the Death Watch goes and lives after Maul's siege.
Right.
I forget what that moon is called, but anyway. So it would make perfect sense why they're the ones who saved him, and also why he's a child of the Watch.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you have anything before IG-11 comes in?
No.
Gotcha. My exact note is IG-11, why would you come to town, but also you're freaking sick.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like, and him, like, rotating and
Blasting.
shooting everything. Yeah, I love it. Love it.
And, like, the way he's working, like, his own blasters, but also the blaster on the... I forgot what they're called. Max
Speeder
gonna
bike,
kill
speeder
us.
bike,
The
speeder bike.
bikes.
Yeah. I got your back.
You didn't hear that, Mackenzie. Yeah, just the way he's working everything is just so cool. There's explosions, people are dying, and then he comes in and like he throws the bike and it like runs stormtroopers over, and then the Din, Kara, and Greef come out and start fighting. Like, it is just an amazing scene.
Oh, yeah. What I also love, too, while IG-11's rotating and shooting and all that stuff, and firing the speeder bike blasters and all that, he's also, the whole time, you can watch him, like, rotating his chest to keep Grogu in the bag.
Yes!
Out of blaster range. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, especially, like, I think I don't know about you, but me for sure, like, I wasn't sure about IG-11. You know, I've had similar sentiments to Din, like, can we really trust this thing?
Yeah.
You know, and to see that, it was like, wow, this thing is actually caring for this child.
Yep. Yeah, it's really cool. And then also just with IG-11, I love Taika Waititi in general. One of my favorite bits of, like, one of my favorite movies ever is What We Do in the Shadows, the original one that he wrote and started. And, like, I love that man. And so, therefore, I love IG-11. Anytime I get to see him is a good time.
For sure. For sure. Let's see. Oh, okay. So, here's a question. We see a Death Trooper punch Din right in the face. How much do you think that hurt his hand?
Probably, I mean, I would think it would break his hand. Because even, like, pretty soft metals, like, let's say you punch a car. You know, like, a lot of cars nowadays are made out of aluminum or very thin sheet metal, like, very light materials. And that'll break your hand, like, immediately.
Yeah.
So, I would think that would break his hand.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me think of that scene in the Clone Wars final arc, the Siege of Mandalore, where a clone trooper punches a Mandalorian.
Yep.
Which I think, I honestly, it's got to be a meme with, like, I know we as a community has memed it, but it's got to be a meme within the Star Wars team, because we see clones just straight up punch Mandalorians. We see clones punch battle droids. We saw this guy punch Din. Like,
yeah,
somebody's doing this on purpose.
Yeah, but also I could see from the clone's perspective, and then also the Death Trooper's perspective too. Like, a punch, while obviously you're not trying to throw a punch to knock him out, a punch is a good way to also just keep someone off you. You know? Like, it's kind of like a push. Maybe that's why they do it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so, sorry. As somebody who studies a lot of, like, history and stuff, like, a lot of times Star Wars just devolves into these, like, melee brawls while everyone has guns.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
I like it because I think it's realistic.
Really?
There is, like, especially in history, a good example would be like the American Civil War. Officers and sometimes just regular troops would carry swords, and a lot of people think that, like, oh, that was just for show to show rank. No, like, they were still trained to use swords at that time.
Yeah.
And that was not that long ago. I mean, 1861, which is when it started, was only 100 and, doing the math real quick, 162 years ago.
Yeah.
And So I mean, those guys knew how to use swords for combat for that purpose, was just because of melee. And then even today, I mean, troopers all around the country, soldiers, they're issued knives and taught how to wrestle and taught like Krav Maga kind of stuff, martial arts. I mean,
Yeah.
And it's because there's what is called in defense shooting and also like military history and that kind of thing. There's what's called the 21-foot rule.
Okay.
And basically what the 21-foot rule is within 21 feet, only 7 yards, someone with a knife can get to you faster than you can draw your gun and fire.
Okay, interesting.
And so, obviously those guys need to know how to fight, other than with a gun, because sometimes someone might be a little too close to you, and you can't draw your gun in time.
Yeah. Which, and I think for the Star Wars universe, it, especially like Clone Wars era, it makes sense. The two most powerful fighters were very keen on like close-up combat. Like the Jedi, obviously their main weapon was their lightsaber. They're coming in close.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Mandalorians, like, yeah, if you could shoot a weak spot, and yes, there's a whole argument on like Beskar had been really diluted at that point and their armor wasn't as good, but like their armor was pretty blaster proof, and they were also some of the most trained hand-to-hand fighters in the galaxy. So I'm guessing armies were even more so prepared for hand-to-hand combat, because like what are you gonna do when a Jedi is right in your face?
Oh yeah, well, and then also we're talking like 21-foot rule. That's just a human running.
Yeah.
Imagine someone with a jetpack.
Right.
Or like, I mean, they can come at you way faster than you can draw your gun. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be something where you or a Jedi, which they have supernatural reflexes and also can move at super speed. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to be ready for that if you're fighting in a war. So I like it. I think it's realistic.
Nice. Okay, cool.
for them.
I know
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have complained about it, and we probably need to move on, but I really want to do an episode in the future where we specifically talk about the Battle of Geonosis.
Okay. How come?
'Cause I've learned recently that I think 86% of the clones that fought in that battle died, and that there was a lot of
Jeez.
animosity between the clones and the Jedi, because the Jedi led in their first battle. The Jedi got better as they went on, but like they led the clones as if it were an army of Jedi, essentially, and it got most of them killed.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, and then also from what I remember, a lot of Jedi died too.
Yeah.
That'd be something interesting to talk about as well, like just how many people died in that one battle. I mean, it's pretty wild when you think about it.
You know what?
Yeah.
Actually, I might be wrong on that number. The 86%, it was still a very high number of clones died, but the 86 might actually be the percentage of Jedi that died in that battle.
I could see that.
A
lot.
Yeah.
A lot died. Yeah.
But yes, we'll do a deep dive on that, because I have a lot to say, especially about our boy Mace.
Yeah. Well, and then also, I mean, we're both math boys. We like it.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
For sure. Okay, but to get us back into it, last major thing I have about this fight scene here is I wrote that something I love about this fight is that they kill so many troopers, and not once before they escape does it feel like they actually made any progress. More and more just kept coming, and that's what I was talking about earlier, just the sheer number of troopers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and also, too, if they all looked the same, it may not have even had to have been that many. If they have enough firepower and enough reinforcement troops, I mean, you could make, say, 150 look like 1,000.
Yeah.
Because they all look the same. You don't know, it's just a sea of white.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I mean,
cool.
You kill some, and there's the guy behind him looks exactly the same. It's got to be a little disorientating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Or you kill one, and you turn around, and there's another one. Or, like stuff like that. You just probably don't even know which way's up and which way's down. at some point.
Yeah. Which,
Just keep swinging. Yeah.
Very smart on the good old Palp's side.
Yeah. Well, like we've talked about before, he is the master in playing war games. He knows what he's doing. Yep.
For sure. Let's see. Then just quickly, Din gets blown up, and they retreat back into the building.
Yep.
So,
and then Moff Gideon orders that flame trooper guy.
Yes, we get to see a flame trooper. Is this the first live-action flame trooper we've gotten to see?
Other than the sequels.
Oh yeah, right.
It's the first original Empire flame trooper.
Gotcha.
That I've seen that I can think
of. Yeah. So I wrote down if I had a nickel for every time Grogu saved Din from a fire in a season finale, I'd only have 2 nickels. But it's weird it happened twice, right?
Dude, honestly, I love the way that you wrote that down. That's hilarious.
I love that quote from Doofenshmirtz. I try and use it every chance I can.
I'd only have 2 nickels, but it's weird it happened twice. Oh, that's funny. I'm gonna take that with me. That's a keeper.
Do.
That's
Please
hilarious.
I don't know. I'd completely forgotten about it, and obviously, we finished season 3 within the last 4 months, right?
Yeah, if I remember right, it was March-ish. Right?
Oh yeah. So, it was still pretty fresh on my mind, and I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, oh yeah, this does happen twice.
Yep. That's funny.
I did want to ask you, however, at this point, Din is saying, leave me. Give me a warrior's death. I'm not going to make it. We see all the blood on Kara's hand. At this point, we didn't know if Mandalorian was getting a second season.
Yeah.
Your first watch through, was there a part of you that thought he might not make it?
Maybe. I think part of me knew that at that point the child wasn't going to die.
Yeah. And
part of me knew that most of the main characters weren't going to die. But at that one, I really did kind of, in the back of my mind, thought that maybe that if we were going to get a season 2, that maybe it would be about a different Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Or that, because they really didn't release much on the story at all.
Yeah.
Before stuff came out. So I really had no idea. I just kind of was on the edge of my seat just seeing what was going to happen.
Same. I think for me, it was the moment when we saw the blood that I was like, oh, he actually got hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, if you've ever seen a movie or a comic book movie or read a comic book or something where Superman dies or gets hurt,
Yeah.
And you're just like, holy crap, they hurt Superman. I didn't think they could do that.
This is bad.
This is very bad.
Right?
When Superman starts bleeding, that's not good. This was kind of the same feeling, I think. The Mandalorian's bleeding. Holy crap.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
That was really smart on Gideon's side of just blowing up the gun.
Yeah.
But also, it makes me think, if this is... Because they went on and on about how dangerous a weapon this was before. Oh, you talking about,
the big thing on a tripod?
Yeah.
The floating machine gun thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they... why were they so stressed out if they could just blow it up in one shot?
Yeah, right.
All it took was Din sticking his head out, shooting the thing, and he would have killed multiple stormtroopers.
Yep.
Silly. But very smart on Gideon's side. Yes, we get IG-11 telling Din that, because Din's like, I took a grade, not a living thing can see me, and IG-11 says, I'm not a living thing, and takes his helmet off.
Yeah, well, and I like how robotic that is. I mean, the man's just spitting facts. He's like, well, not human, so.
Yeah. And I love his joke after, too, where he's like, your central processor has been damaged. Din's
Yep.
like, my brain?
Yep, that's good stuff.
Yeah, just really good writing in this episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have anything else before the tunnels?
As far as the writing goes, actually, and
yeah.
IG-11, I'm pretty sure Taika Waititi was the one who did this episode, if I remember correctly.
I know for sure he directed it. I'm not, because I was, that was like the first thing that popped up when the credits rolled. I did not wait long enough to see who actually wrote the episode, but I'm sure it was him or him and a team of people.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then also I like it, like, just being a fan of his. I love his sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I think that line right there, that sounds like something that he would do.
Yes, and I love how robotic IGN-11 is after it, where he's like, that was a joke. I'm trying to lighten the mood.
Yeah. But I love that just in movies and stuff when robots recognize they're robots and even say so. Like, that's just funny.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Okay, so a couple things here in the sewers. That's what they're called.
Yep. We see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yep, and they come and they beat up Din and they take all his Beskar and say, "You're Mandalore no more."
They think he's Shredder. and then while they run away, that Mikey throws a piece of pizza at him. And that's it.
Yep.
Just insult to injury.
And then Grogu eats it and has a pizza addiction.
Yep.
He goes from one day becoming the Mandalore to just being like a fat gamer in Din's basement.
The pizza man instead of the Mandalore.
I can't pause, Dad. It's an online game.
I can't take out the trash yet. I told you I'll do it later.
He's like playing with one hand and like trying to force take the trash out. Okay, so we get to see a pile of Beskar armor, which it had to have been a crap ton of Imperials to come and attack this Mandalorian coven.
Oh yeah, and they'd have to be coming from all sides.
Yeah, there had to have not been a way out, because I mean, that is a lot of armor.
Yeah, or I mean, I'm just thinking about this, like honestly here. They may have just used a bomb too, or some sort of gas.
No, you're right.
What?
That's awful. I didn't think about it, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a sealed area. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I hate
sucks.
to get too dark, but I think that's probably what they did. A bomb or
Yeah.
gas or something. Just wipe them out.
Yeah. Especially with as destroyed as that Beskar armor was, it had to have been.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, if you think about it this way, like, if you sent a bunch of stormtroopers down there, the stormtroopers would be trapped too.
Right.
And that's really risky.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a bomb's not that risky. I don't know. That's just my weird way of thinking. But
No.
that's what I think they probably did.
That is very true. Yep. Man, that sucks. Like, I'm thinking back to like it's not just a pile of armor, like it is pretty beat up armor. So I really think it definitely would take a bomb to have done that much damage.
Yeah, I would think so. And then also, like, blasts don't bounce, so
Yeah.
that'd be a way to defeat their armor too. Because if you go in there with blasters, there's a chance that they're deflecting a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas a bomb, it doesn't matter if you have armor or not.
Dang.
On a happier note,
Dan is told he must take Grogu to find the Jedi.
That's true. Yeah, and that's the first time that we hear someone talk about the Jedi in Mandalorian, which is interesting.
Right, and I like, we've talked a lot on this podcast about Empire propaganda and how it made it seem like the Jedi were very ancient, and it has been a long time since they died out, and like, it's just a small thing that we can see that, like, yeah, that propaganda really did work.
Oh yeah, well, and like when you think about it too, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda. Well, and then obviously Luke was only 5 years prior, but Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, that was less than 10 years before Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But
And
those two were still alive too.
I think we're going to do a whole episode talking about this, but I think there was close to 30 Jedi that we know in canon that survived Order 66, and by the time episode 4 starts, most of them are dead.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, this is another, what do we say, 5 to 9 years? I don't think we knew exactly. But then it's 3 years between those two films, another 4. So, like, we're looking at 9 to 13 years, roughly.
Yeah. That they're all gone.
Yeah.
And then also, too, I mean, just, again, like you were saying, the Empire just were masters of just convincing people that, no, there's no Jedi out there. They don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
But yes, I really do like that the armor essentially tells Din that, like, until you find his people, you are his father.
Yep. Yep, he's a foundling. He's your foundling.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just love that. Do you have anything else before she fights the troopers?
Is this where we find out that Din's a foundling too, this episode?
Yes, that was... Yep. Sorry, that was the flashback.
Yeah, right. But I think it's just kind of... It's a cool piece of poetry that the foundling has a foundling.
Yes, I love that.
And I love how they take care of each other. They teach each other things. It's nice.
Yes.
It's nice. Yeah.
But yeah, so we see 5 stormtroopers come in, and she's, you know, like, kneeling down, and, like, one of them hits her helmet with his gun. I really like the dink sound of his gun hitting the metal, but then she just obliterates these guys, and there's one specific one that she tosses into her furnace, and, like, clearly the top half of him is burning, but then it cuts to a different angle and shows the furnace again, and there's no bottom half, meaning he just slowly slid in and disintegrated completely.
Man, this episode's dark.
Right?
When you really start to think about it. Jeepers.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If it's hot enough to melt Beskar, it's probably hot enough to melt the guy. Oh,
yeah. Well, and, you know, if Beskar and steel melt at similar temperatures, that's like... It's probably like 1,800 degrees or something. Fahrenheit. I mean,
yeah. What sucks is we hear him screaming... He did not die instantly.
Yeah. Ouchie.
But hey, at least he went in head first and not feet first.
Yeah. Well, and also, Elijah, feel free to cut what I'm about to say. But skin doesn't burn, it melts too.
Oh!
Which just to give you something else to make you cringe. I just wanted to tell you that real quick.
No, I may or may not keep it. If I had to hear it, they have to hear it.
It's like the Christmas special all over again. It's, you know, if you have to suffer through it, we all gotta. Yeah. We all gotta do it together.
Well, do you have anything here before they get on the boat?
Nope.
Great. My first note is, who gave that R2 unit arms?
Oh, yeah, dude, that's like...
It's freaky.
It's real creepy. Yeah. That's just another thing, like, there's a lot of things in this episode that are just, they're kind of scary, honestly. Right. Especially when you dive deep on them.
And they didn't even just give him a set of arms. They gave him 2 sets of arms and legs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, doesn't he stand? But, yeah.
Yeah, and, like, they did something to his top head bit that spins around, where it's, like, lifted and higher up than a normal R2's is. I don't know. Just some twisted mind had a little too much fun.
Yep. Well, and then also, whenever we first see him, he's melted to the ship. So you have no idea until he's like, oh, you guys ready to go? Whoop! And he stands up and everyone's like, Oh, wow, that's horrifying. Yep.
Yeah.
Not cool, man. Not cool.
Yes, they did the reveal very well.
Yeah.
Let's see. They're floating down. Din's like, oh, there's a whole platoon out there, which is, I don't know. I don't really know military sizes, but there's like 20 guys, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That sound about right?
Platoon, I think, in real life, well, again, we're Americans, we only know about American stuff, but
True.
a platoon in the American military, I think, is larger than that.
Gotcha.
I'm going to Google it just because, but
yeah,
I want to say it's about 50.
Gotcha. Yeah, because like the initial shots, we see 4 on one side and 5 on the other, and I was like, 9 guys? That's hardly anything. And then we get a wider shot right before IG-11 explodes, and I didn't count, but there had to have been at least like 20.
Yeah, this is okay, so according to Wikipedia, anyway, just real quick Googling it, a platoon in the U.S. military is 20 to 50 troops.
Oh, okay. That sounds about right.
So it's either a small platoon or not a platoon. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. We have so IG-11 says, I'm going to sacrifice myself. They try and figure out another plan. Specifically, Din's trying to find out another plan, and I really love that we can see in just this short amount of time, Din has grown to care for IG-11.
Yeah, and like he actually fights him. Like he's like, no, like I don't want you to blow yourself up. I just think that's very sweet.
Yeah, and he tries to use the droid's like programming against him. Like, no, your programming is to protect the kid. You can't do that if you're dead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I love the line where IG-11 says, it's okay to be sad. And Din's like, I'm not sad. And IGM's like, I've monitored your voice. You are sad.
Savage IG-11 at it again. I love it.
Yep. And then he goes and he blows himself up.
Yep.
He kills everybody.
Yep. Wipes out a whole... Well, I mean, I guess he doesn't kill all of them, or we don't know for sure, but wipes out a whole platoon, pretty much. Yeah.
And I really liked his sacrifice. I feel like this is a very powerful scene.
Yeah, and I like, too, how they never brought him back totally. Like, so his sacrifice actually means something.
Yeah, I was a little worried when they first started bringing him back, because we might do a whole episode on this in the future, or maybe in a tangent episode. Disney's not the best about letting people just stay dead.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
right.
I was happy with how they handled season 3.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see. Then we get Moff attacking them as they get out, and Din. This is one of the coolest scenes in the entire series. Din like jetpacks over the TIE fighter, spins around, grapple hooks onto it. Moff tries to shake him off. Din's able to get a bomb on the ship, and he leaves, blows up, destroying one of the wings. It's just so cool.
And then we get one of my favorite sounds in Star Wars, and it's the sound of a TIE fighter going down. It's like, I love that noise.
I can't wait till I edit, because Discord 100% muted you that whole time.
We'll just play the noise. People will understand.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure your audio picked it up, but it just didn't come through to me, so I'm excited to hear it.
It's just a high-pitched spinning noise. That's all it is.
Nice. Okay, so this is, I think, the only complaint I have in the episode. Actually, wait. Do you have anything on the scene with Moff?
No, actually, I will go on the record as saying this is my favorite way that anyone has ever taken down a TIE fighter ever.
Yeah. You know what? I think me too.
I think it's freaking sweet. That's all I have to say.
For sure. Yep. So, this is the only complaint I have about the episode. is they defeat Moff, and then it's just like, yeah, we did it. We freed Navarro. And it just, like... And Kara does. She makes a line like, I'm going to stick around in case there are any more imps. But it just felt so rushed and, like, a really big tonal shift to me.
Yeah.
Because, like, earlier in the episode, there were literally so many stormtroopers, they just couldn't stay. And then
Right.
IGN-11 kills 20 of them, and that was enough that, okay, Navarro's free now.
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, like, my theory on that is that there weren't that many clone troopers. They were just masters of making it look like it.
Gotcha.
And then B, I think the reason that was so rushed was because Rangers was supposed to come out at the time in, like, a year and a half or something.
Right,
like it was,
right.
It's going to be really quick. So I think they were just doing that to tease Rangers.
Gotcha. Okay. Also, when you said they were just making it look like there was more, my mind, I just saw an image of like a stormtrooper running into the battle, shooting once, and then like running behind a trash can and running back out like in a circle.
Yeah, but also leave it to Sneaky Sheev to have them do that. I mean, maybe that's what they were trained to do. I don't know.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It just, at least, it's never bothered me before, but it just felt like a weird tonal shift today.
Yeah. With how quick it was, like they were just wrapping it up a little too quick.
Yeah. And then we see Din and Grogu fly off, and we get, I think, one of my favorite scenes, Moff Gideon cutting himself out with a darksaber.
Yeah. Well, and what an ending to season 1. I mean, that was like, my jaw was on the floor when I watched that.
And it looked so good in live action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the darksaber, I'm kind of amazed at how good they made it look.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't look like a lightsaber. It didn't look like a sword. It just looked like its own thing. And I think that's really cool. Yeah.
For sure.
It looked as good or better than it did in Clone Wars.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's all I have. Do you have anything else on this episode?
No. Other than I'm excited to continue on.
Yeah.
With other episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think actually, to our audience, we're going to be taking just a little break from Mandalorian as we prep for Ahsoka. So we've got a couple episodes that we've talked about that will be getting out soon, just to kind of prep for that series, and then we're gonna hopefully be able to review Ahsoka, and then we should get to the Mandalorian after that.
Yeah, it'll be good. It's gonna be a good time.
Very excited. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Animal Squadron. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at animalsquadron@gmail.com. Again, that is animalsquadron@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify, the question of the week will be just what you thought of Mandalorian Chapter 8. And if you are listening somewhere where you can leave us a review, we would love to hear what you thought. Anyway, for the Animal Squadron, this has been Mother Goose.
And your main man, Lowtech Tub.
The one and only.
Ya boy.
Goodbye, everybody.
Adios.